I know this has been at times an uncomfortable conversation that we're having.
And hopefully somebody's listened to this bit of our conversation, Matt, and gone, oh, I get it, I'm not stupid.
Yeah.
40 years of feeling stupid is not okay.
Yeah, because you called it heartbreaking.
Yeah, it was heartbreaking because I didn't realise I wasn't stupid. And I was really sad for little Dani because she thought she was stupid. So yeah.
So the story of a mum of three from Lancashire who was homeless and suffered domestic abuse, but she's turned her life around by building a multi-million-pound business. Dani Wallace from Bolton started her own motivational speaking company with just £300. Now she organises events around the world.
You're the woke event, box ticking. That's not for me. What do you say to them to help them understand?
It's a real thing to say if you think about it, because woke gets really bandied around.
Right.
Woke is just kind.
Why isn't it just whoever's the best is on the stage? Why does it matter the background, the colour of the skin, whatever? Why is it not just who's the best speaker?
There's a lot of talk, certainly on the guru space, that if you're creating something that is really legacy, that is movement centric, that you can do that in 3 or 4 hours a week. That's bullshit. So if, people looking at me for work-life balance advice right now, I am not your girl. 13, 14, 15, 16, 17 hour days. To the point where people will be ringing me or Gemma, are you okay? And so...
Are you okay?
Yeah.
I felt like I wanted to pause.
No, absolutely not.
Dani, welcome.
Matthew, thanks.
We're here. I want to start with the big festoon arena. that feeling there. Mm-hmm. Tell me about it.
So, at the time that we are recording this, we are 4 weeks out. Yes.
And by the way, this has been like years in the planning, right?
Yeah, it's been years in the planning, and the trajectory of the event has always been to create what we call a big box event, right? An event that we can take out globally. So the idea, the spark for it happened in about 2016, 2017, kind of around then, in that I was sat there. I'd been to a Tony Robbins event.
It always starts with a Tony Robbins event, doesn't it?
It's
He's a bugger. That bloody Tony.
But what I found was that there was an appetite within me to attend events like that, but I felt so far removed from like the culture of it and that really, really super intense masculinity of it. And given my background of not having the best experience with men, not that it was I want to create this like for women even, it was just I needed something that wasn't sort of as like in your face bro.
Yeah.
That I could relate to, and also kind of culturally for the UK, accessing personal development like that isn't for everybody.
No.
And coming from the council estates to land into something like that, or to try and make that the entry level, I think means that it becomes really inaccessible to people who really need that sort of learning.
It's not cool, is it? Like, for a lot of people and younger people, it's like all happy clappy. People say, oh, it's just these happy clappy Americans and so on. And you're right, especially for us coming from the north of England.
Yeah.
It's not the thing, right?
Trying to get them to like dance in rows and massage each other's shoulders and like look at each other in the eye and tell them that they're amazing. And if you've never experienced something like that before, there's no access point. And so I came away from that thinking, I wonder what the access point for the UK would be for that. And that just kind of percolated in the background a little bit. Because I'd not long since come from the other side of experiencing homelessness, and I'd made the decision at the time that were I to survive it, I'd spend the rest of my life in service. So going to this event was this kind of me trying to access learning about myself, this really sitting with the mirror.
Where did that come from? If I survive this, I'll spend my life in service, because other people are not thinking about everybody else when they're thinking of surviving a really horrible situation.
So that comes from when I was really young. So when we were growing up, in our house, we experienced a lot of familial domestic abuse, addiction. That was kind of the fabric of and the information that I had when I was growing up. Me and my sister both. So my sister and I are a year apart. And I remember being 12, 13 years old, and the grown-ups were arguing downstairs, and my sister and I were sat watching the TV, and we used to turn the volume of the TV up so that we couldn't hear them downstairs. And I remember distinctly sitting, we had them like cabin beds with the, like the cupboards and what have you. We were sat on the cabin bed watching the TV, turn the TV up. And I remember having this conversation with Gemma saying, we wouldn't know how we would do this, but I would want to make something when I'm grown up. When we're grown up, we'd want to make something that would help kids like us, or people who've had experiences like us, maybe not to have experiences like us, or something like that. I remember having that real memory conversation.
How old?
We were 12 or 13 at the time. And,
which again is not normal.
Yeah, I mean, nothing I do is normal.
There's a theme. But where do you think that came from? That need to go, we need better for others?
Because we'd experienced it with our cousins as well. So we actually had the best deal out of our cousins. And they would come and stay with us like a revolving door. It was always like my mum had this big family, and there was this like kind of revolving door of elder cousins and younger cousins that would come and stay with us for a period of time, and then mum would kind of look after them and then send them off back out into the world. And we had this kind of conveyor belt of kind of pseudo siblings who me and my sister were kind of just expected to love and accept, and of course we did, because we didn't know any different. Right. But again, part of the fabric of the way that me and Gemma grew up wasn't just the bad stuff, it was the really great stuff as well, like that really loving, welcoming nature that mum had inherently. Because of how we grew up, we had to adopt it, not whether we liked it or not, because
it's what it was.
Yeah. And so when we sat there, it was like, God, this is our normal, but this isn't normal. We'd see friends that go on holiday, or we'd see friends whose families didn't fight, or, we'd see that happen outside of the house. And
so you was aware there was a different way.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the things, so where the performance comes from, was I found out very early that I could sing, and my mum couldn't afford singing lessons. So my primary school teacher, and we remain friends to this day, Elaine Sutton, she's amazing, had called my mum and said, we've noticed that, Dani can be quite excitable at school. And one of the ways that we found that she's channeled this is she's got a real ear for music. She's a brilliant singer. I'd like to give her singing lessons. And mum was like, well, we can't afford it. And Elaine had said, well, just give us £2 a week, whatever it is that you can afford. If she was going to get an ice cream, like whatever that is, we're in fair energetic exchange. And so we did that.
Wow. And
then I started performing. And I found that when I was performing, nobody was fighting. And if I look at the real through line 30 odd years later, when I look at the reason the Big Festoon exists, and I talk about that a little bit.
Yeah.
But the reason the Big Festoon exists is that if I've got the stage and a microphone and I'm encouraging people to link arms and not fight, and that kind of becomes part of the global movement of the thing. Now, that wasn't really a conscious decision. It's only when I reflect back on it.
Yeah.
And looking out at the arena now, when I decided, we were going to create an event that was accessible from a personal development perspective, that didn't feel really alien, that was accessible as it could be intersectionally, because I knew what it was like to be kept out of business rooms, that really sowed the seed. And then I came out of corporate and started singing again, which was great. And I was putting my makeup on in the car. I'd have my phone on the dashboard, putting my makeup on, and people watch. People on the internet put the makeup on.
So you was like going live on Facebook, things like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So and this was when you was gigging. It was like you were getting ready to do the gig in the car.
Yeah.
Right.
Because it was the only place I got any peace. It's like I got like a couple of really young kids and sitting and putting my makeup on. It just wasn't the one. So I just put my makeup in the car, and because I was singing in the arse end of nowhere, or I'd be singing in the back streets of Blackpool, for example.
What sort of gigs were you doing? Like hotels, pubs, clubs?
Matches, dispatches, pubs, clubs, opening of envelopes, closing the toilets, like wherever would pay me, like I was hustling. And
that was like your full-time income then?
Yeah, it was my full-time income. And then as a side hustle, because I realised that I was just putting my makeup on So I'd sell makeup at the same time. So then I'd be gigging and also sharing with people mascara, for example. I'd get a flat tyre on the side of the motorway. I'm like, right, how many mascaras is that? Right, everyone, I've got a flat tyre. Anyone want to buy a mascara? Like it was, I mean, I'd be sharing the scrapes that I was getting into, and I'd be sharing my ponderings and my thoughts and my, you know, my plans for the future. I wanted to write a book and I wanted to create an event. And eventually people started talking to each other as well as talking to me on these lives that I would do. So I was like, should we get in rooms? Shall we like meet up? And people were like, yeah, let's.
So you was building a community just unintentionally in a
Yeah,
way.
slipped and fell.
Yeah, okay.
So yeah, I was like, well, shall we hang out? And they were like, yeah, okay then. Then I realised how much events cost. And so I did it for Swapsies. And I remember I wanted to be a motivational speaker because I'd seen all of this going on. And I had nowhere to prove it. So I needed assets. So I did a Swapsy with a videographer and a photographer. I was giving away tickets and got my friends in a room. They had no idea why they were there, Matt. I was like, just come to my event because it's going to be dead good. And which I've done for the last 6 years. It's going all right. And yeah, so the very first kind of big festoon as it was getting that community into a room together and sharing personal development, business development and things like that. And it just captured people's imaginations. And I think it was because it was never really about me. I just got to sing for everyone whilst we were doing it and speak, but I actually wanted to pass the microphone and share it with people.
Excuse me, right, I've got an important question that I need to ask you. No, not the guest, you, the listener. Have you bought your ticket to Business Mastery Live yet? If you're not clear, this is our biggest event ever. Not only in capacity, we're going to have about 500 business owners, entrepreneurs, content creators in the room. Not only in the calibre of speakers, we've got people like Daniel flipping Priestley speaking on stage and Scott Thomas, but also because it's our first ever 2-day business event. It's happening on Monday the 13th and Tuesday the 14th of April. And my advice is this. In a 2026 world, it's so easy to just do things online, but actually just because it's easy doesn't mean it's the best. In my opinion, as somebody who takes visibility very, very seriously, there is no substitute for building relationships in the room. I know events cost more money, they take more time, energy and effort, but they really are, I believe, worth the reward. And also, you can rest assured we are throwing everything we flipping can into making sure this is going to be one of the best business events of this year. And not only that, I believe passionately that the calibre of events that we see in London and in America and all them fancy places should be happening right here in the north of England. And if you believe the same and you want to support us, we'd massively appreciate you. But will you do me a favour and buy your tickets now? Because I'm not going to lie, it's stressful with you leaving it till last minute. So please, stop just listening to this podcast, give it a pause, click the link below the show notes, buy your ticket, and then I can sleep tonight, and I'd appreciate it. Have you done it? If you've done it, now we'll go back to the interview. Thank you very much. Enjoy.
Tell me about the beginning of personal development, because you said there, you know, there was this Tony Robbins event and you was like, I can see how I can make this something that speaks more to people like me. Mm-hmm. But why were you at a Tony Robbins event anyway? Because again, for people like you and me in the north of England, it's not the norm. So what was your first introduction into personal development and why were you there?
So when I was working in corporate, and I'm really lucky because I didn't realise I did this either. I swapped a stage for a stage. So when I was 16, essentially I ran away with the circus. And when I say the circus, I mean I went to go and be a singer at holiday camps. Okay. And so I got to work all over the world and I was singing and entertaining and all of that, but it was never considered a proper job.
Right.
So I came back to the UK. My grandma was nearing the end of her life and I thought, do you know what, I'll put some roots down. I need to get married. I need to, you know, I've got to settle down at some point because you've got to, right?
Yeah, tick the boxes.
So anyway, I came back to the UK and I got a job at the Carphone Warehouse at the beginning of their huge rise, like early noughties. And because I was able to talk and I've been hosting and things like that, they was like, oh, why don't you second into the learning and development team? Right. And that began my corporate career in L&D. And so I was looking at things like communication skills, personality types, talent management. I was like, why is this not taught more broadly? Why is this not taught in schools? If we knew how to communicate with each other, and if we could understand how other people communicate and adjust accordingly, maybe there wouldn't be as much fighting. Like even things like transactional analysis and stuff like that. And so that began for me, the sitting with the mirror. I didn't understand why in my personal life I was on a cycle of self-sabotage, drinking, poor relationships, but in my career I was doing really well. And the things that I was teaching and learning about, I wasn't applying to myself. And that's the click in the lock for many of the things. So I started to read about it, become a student of myself, and became a student of people, and became a student of what makes people tick, why do they do what they do, not just from a business perspective, just in life. And it was there that, you know, when you start that, you suddenly stumble across people like Tony Robbins, Les Brown, for example, Lisa Nichols, huge sources of like inspiration for me early doors. But still there was something like missing from it for me. And I think it was just batshittery that was missing. I just needed some joy, and I needed somewhere to be silly as well as serious. And that's why we've ended up where we've ended up, I think.
But you've now got this huge business, and we all, well, not we all, but I think it's very easy to think that's the dream. That's where we head, especially anybody that starts out in business. I think the idea of having this huge community and putting on these huge events is like a really attractive, appealing thing. However, and I know we've spoken a little bit about this, it requires you to take on different roles, responsibilities.
A huge amount of sacrifice as well. Like there is a lot. There's a lot of talk, certainly on the internet and in the guru space, that, you know, if you're creating something that is really legacy, that is, you know, that is movement centric, that you can do that in 3 or 4 hours a week, and that's bullshit.
Yeah, shall we talk about this work-life balance when you're building a big business?
Yes,
What's your thoughts on that?
There is none. No, there's not. It's not that there is none, but you can't expect to grow something with real momentum without giving a serious amount of thought to what you are willing to do and what you are not willing to do. And I don't mean that unethically. I mean that what you're willing to commit your time to. The thing that gets me out of bed in the morning isn't how much am I going to make today, what am I bringing home. It's I can see viscerally the change the concept of the big festoon can have. And that's not delusions of grandeur. If I think about accessible business, intersectionally accessible, but now more than ever, in a world that really feels like it's on the cusp of something pretty dangerous, we are safer in numbers. We're safer in linking arms. We're safer creating economies between ourselves and understanding how commerce works between ourselves in an environment that is kind. We need to be really holding on to communities like that now. That's the thing that gets me out of bed in the morning, and that becomes bigger than you know, I need to practice self-care. Yes, I do. Of course I do. But because this is a scrappy founder-led situation, I've not sprung a corporate entity overnight out of myself. There are things that happen at the beginning that is like pushing the stationary car, and that takes effort and it takes sacrifice. And I'm damned if anyone would say otherwise. You have to choose where you spend your time. That's not like forsaking all others, but there are periods in time when we're building what I'm building. I have to say to the kids, like, I'm having to say no now in order to say yes later. I'm having to say no to social stuff right now in order to say yes later. Because what I'm doing really feels genuinely important. It feels like I don't want to get involved in politics, and people trust business people more than they trust politicians. Right. And so if we can create something really meaningful at pace, at a time that's needed, then I've got to hold some space for a second to go, I'll give it my best shot. I'll give it everything I've got, because no one can get to me to the other end of it and say, well, she didn't try.
Do you ever worry that time will never come, that you actually fully can rest and go, we've achieved what we need to do? Because I think it's quite a common thing between entrepreneurial brains or just people that have a passion and a purpose in life to kind of convince themselves maybe that it's like, I've got to say no now for later.
Yeah,
and then a few more years go by and it's still later and we keep moving the goalposts and then there's a bigger goal and there's more impact we want to make.
Yeah.
Does it ever come?
There's nothing ever at the top of the ladder of big work. There's nothing ever at the top of the ladder. But what we do get to choose is who we spend our time with, who we align ourselves with, how we involve our families, if they want to be involved or if they don't want to be involved. One of the ways that I've tried to orchestrate life within this big old thing is by having incredible friends like you, and having incredible support systems, by choosing my friends really, really wisely now more than ever, and being able to burn through lessons as quickly as I possibly can and give myself compassion on the way. Could I only work and nothing else? No, I've got to enjoy the work. I've got to believe in the work. It's got to give me joy. I've got to be able to wear Care Bear pants. And
yeah, we got them in. Get them on camera. We joked before that you might have to sit on the table just because we need to see I was willing. Epic pants.
You know, there's joy through it if you stitch it in and you're intentional about it. So I don't feel like I'm missing out too much. And in terms of chasing the next thing, I'm not chasing money and I'm not chasing success. And if I was, that would feel much more empty. I don't think the work's ever going to be done. But what I'm doing now more than ever, because I'm feeling how much it's taking up, is having a plan for what the growth looks like in 10 years' time, in 15, 20 years' time, at a time when I'm no longer here, and I hope that the Big Festoon is still here in some of its iterations, or at least its legacy is. So with that in mind, like, is it, do I ever get to the top of anything? No. I get to plan the journey and enjoy the journey. I get to plan for an exit. I get to hopefully have some sort of control or insight over what that exit looks like and then what that legacy looks like. And I think for me, that's as best I can do. That might not be the same for everybody else, because not everybody else is trying to build something like this. But for me, it just feels so much bigger than, like, I'm not chasing the next thing. I know where it's going so intentionally. Like, we've got our Manchester flagship at the AO 4 weeks' time. We rinse and repeat, double that in 12 months' time. Then we go Australia, Europe, UAE, but I won't be doing that on my own then. We know what the corporate structure needs to look like to grow it, and I'm building the support to do it.
Okay, let's think about people that listen to this that are maybe like a Dani Wallace 5-6 years ago. Like, they're maybe much earlier in their journey. They're navigating maybe personal life, being a parent, starting a side hustle / business, and they're finding it all very overwhelming, tough to navigate. What are the tips you'd give that person? And I think, you know, it ties into what we were speaking about there, about this perception of work-life balance. You see people in the online space talking about, you know, make money while you sleep and things like that. And you
Sorry.
Sorry. You just visibly moved.
I know.
But, you know, like, I think it's important, like, we address these topics, because it's like, that is rife online.
Yeah.
People buy into that. Sometimes they spend a lot of money on that. It's not quite what they thought. And then they can feel a bit lost. Like, how do they achieve at a high level and do something meaningful and impactful without completely burning out or neglecting meaningful relationships, health, so on? What's your kind of advice? So
my advice would be to, as well as investing in your growth, which is necessary. I wouldn't be where I am now had I not invested in things like mentors and memberships and courses and things like that. However, one of the other things that is necessary to learn is understanding who you are as a leader, understanding what a corporate structure really looks like, understanding what the job market really looks like. Because I think what we're seeing right at this moment is a hangover from the rise in COVID businesses. So kitchen table businesses that began in COVID, that people might not necessarily have had their hand in business before. We've seen this at scale. Yeah. And then what's happening is they're getting either bigger and bigger and bigger, and then burning out because they're not understanding what needs to underpin. Right. Or we've had a freelancer economy where the common language is put your price up, put your price up, put your price up, put your price up. And actually the quality that is being put out by some of the people that are just putting their prices up doesn't measure up to the quality. So then somebody will employ that person within the business, spend a lot of money with that particular person or that maybe that skill set, not get the results. Whereas if you intrinsically understand the role that you need to recruit against and recruit properly, then you've got longevity sat there. So I think that what needs to happen is people need to understand HR process more. I think people need to understand like business structure process, as well as the mindset stuff and the strategy stuff. But until you understand the roles that your business as it grows requires, then you're going to burn yourself out, because you're going to try and do everything first, and then you're going to recruit incorrectly next. And then that's when the house of cards starts to fall down. And that it's frustrating to watch. It's frustrating to experience. And I'm like, for me, I'm almost kind of kicking myself, because a lot of the things that I've been burning through, I knew, but wasn't applying to myself, because I was thinking like a founder and not thinking like a CEO. It gets bandied about, but a CEO understands that they are not the business. They've got the hand on the rudder, and they have integrators that sit beneath them, not beneath them, but adjacent to them, in order to make everything happen. And that has to happen relatively quickly, I think, in order to maintain like a really strong momentum.
What would you say are the best ways to learn that stuff? Because I agree, and when I reflect on my journey, starting a business at 19 with zero understanding what a business is, other than I just saw an opportunity and I thought, if I just buy some stuff and like put some Google ads on or whatever.
Tenacity gets you really far.
It does. But it's exactly what you said about like the house of cards. It's like if you've not got the foundations right, then you're going to hit some really tough times. And I think, to your point, we're seeing it now. I think we see it a lot in the online space, because there's a lot of like, if you think about those 2020 businesses, for example, it's like the landscape in which they were operating in is not normal. Everybody was at home, we was all on Zoom, and you could just put out some kind of offer and people are like, yeah, I'll give that a go.
Because you had a real captive audience there, right?
So it's more, they were good at marketing, but then there's all the other stuff maybe that they just didn't know, or you're just making money and it's going well and there's a lot of hype, and that's great in one sense, but there's all the other stuff. So there will potentially be people listening to where they resonate with that and they're like, that's how I'm building my business. What advice would you give in how can they now basically start to be a proper business person?
To understand that it isn't your job to be... If you're wanting to build a big business, and this, I'm not speaking to the people that, you know, they've either got a hobby-based business or that's just going really well and they're loving that. But for people that really have got that kind of 5-10 onward plan, or they can see that within what it is that they're building, then to understand that it isn't your job to be everybody's friend. I think that was one of the biggest learns, most painful learns that I've had so far, is remembering the thing that I'm growing requires distance. It actually, and which is really painful for someone like me and someone like you, right? Because I just want everyone to like me, and I want to be
loved.
Yeah, I do. And that was the learn, that it actually, what I was doing, I was, by being nice and not kind, I was actually sabotaging myself.
Yeah, let's be clear. What's the difference then, nice versus kind?
So I don't want to take credit for this particular conversation. My sister shared this with me. Gemma's brilliant. She sees the things and she's like, that's you, that. Trevor Noah was doing an interview and they was talking about the difference between nice and kind. And Trevor was like, it's like telling somebody they've got something on the teeth. And it's uncomfortable. You're like, yeah, you've got something on your teeth there. But you've had that conversation, that person has removed the thing from their teeth and feels much better than being embarrassed that they've been walking around with stuff on their teeth all day. You've actually done them a kindness. Some other people might not do that because they wouldn't want to upset that person in that moment. And what they're doing is they're being nice and not serving any of them then. Because then that person later on will see that they've got something on their teeth. Why didn't you tell me I've got something on my teeth? And be mad about it. So that's a really like top level kind of version of like the kind versus nice, but the people pleasing in order to not navigate conflict, for example, or not putting structures in place so that you don't have to show somebody that they might not be doing like the best job in the world, like that becomes a real bugbear and builds resentment on both sides. So again, I think that for somebody who's wanting to grow, what do you learn? What do you need to learn? I would get your head in some real good quality like leadership books that talk about leadership style, that talk about structure and the corporate side of structure, so that you know where it is that you're going. And it's really funny because I've never spoken about this before. Like, normally I'm talking about showing up, rising up, and, you know, you need to talk and take up space. But for the people that are really serious right now, it's going to take you being serious. And serious isn't just, I'm under a load of pressure. It's driving your business, and it's driving the money in your business to the right place. I'm going to just say it. You don't need another course. You don't need another mentor per se. You need what a CEO needs, which is a HR facility. You need somebody who's great at taking your incredible ideas and helping you make an actual plan and holding the space for you to make the plan. I think there's only so much you can do at distance, and it's great as an introduction, but it gets to a point where, you know, it's just not going to do it for you anymore. And I think it's worthwhile understanding that it needs to happen sooner rather than later.
Yeah, and I think also when you're starting out as a one-person band, it's scary to consider investing in team.
Yeah.
And
you become responsible real quick.
You've got responsibility. You've also got that idea of, for a lot of people, they're like, I'm barely got the money to pay myself, and I've got to have another full human being that I've got to find the money for. Yeah. And that taking that first step, that leap, can be really, really scary. And I think it's really important to recognize it's almost like you will never have the money to pay that person or have the business you want without having the person first. Yeah. It's like the chicken and egg thing, right?
Doing it before you're ready.
You've got to do it before you're ready.
But then again, if we go back to like process, for example, having a really clear outcome for that person in that role really helps you have that conversation. Say there's a reason why people have probation periods, right? You get to the end of that 12 weeks, if they're not delivering, then there's a conversation there over performance. If that person at the beginning of that relationship says, I'm going to get you these results, you best don't tell me you're funny, make me laugh.
Yeah.
And if I'm not laughing by the end of it, then we're going to have a different conversation. Then you're not responsible for that anymore, but that person becomes responsible too. And I think that often what happens, again, in founder-led businesses is that we just take it on for ourselves. So if something doesn't work, we'll just go and mop it up, and we'll just go and mop it up. And we go and mop it up to the point where we're burnt out, the team aren't clear, you're fighting fires all the time, and that really affects the culture. So I think that I want to really start a campaign to like push forward our HR consultants more, to share that with our founder-led industries. So when we're at the Big Festoon, for example, I've been really active about getting global business consultancies in, talking about how do you make your business investable? What does that look like? Because you'll hit a glass ceiling eventually, where you'll need to tip some money in from somewhere in order to, call it capital, working capital, in order to make your business grow. If you don't know about that, then you're stuck slogging at your glass ceiling forever. So part of the reason that we're doing things like growth-based conversations at the Big Festoon is to take our incredible founder-led communities and start getting some grown-up conversations in there, as well as here's how you market. Because everyone wants sales and marketing, sales and marketing, sales and marketing. It's not just that anymore if we're going to go where it is that we're going.
It's almost like, because it's not the fun bit, is it, the other stuff?
Oh, I know. It's the unsexy work.
It is unsexy, but it's the important integral work, right? And I think it's so good to hear somebody like you who's got a big presence online that's all about fun and community and all the nice things, actually speaking about the proper business stuff underneath. Because hopefully there'll be people listening now that are like, do you know what? This is a thing I've not taken seriously. And now I can shine a light on that and I can work on that. So in terms of somebody that's earlier on, they're struggling, like navigating things, what I'm hearing there is it's like, learn the proper business stuff.
I'm really sorry.
Like do the adult stuff.
I want to say sexy things.
Oh, sorry. Maybe Dani would have a few years ago, but now it's evolution.
I was in it. Yeah, absolutely. And I think that it's a responsibility, I think, with a platform I've burnt through so many fires in so many different ways. It's only right for me to say, yes, you want to work on your visibility. Yes, you want to work on your speaking. Absolutely fantastic. But if you work on your visibility so much that you're piling in and then you can't support your clients because you've not got the right structures in place, or what even structures do you need to have? Well, it's not just your friend on the internet. It's actually, what does your business structure need to look like?
So it's the structures, it's the processes, it's the adult, boring but important stuff.
I can't believe I'm even saying
it's all. I know, who are you? It's also the delegation. It's learning to bring on team and having the courage to do that.
Yeah.
What about the navigating home versus work life in terms of like something as somebody who's a non-parent but would love to be, but also sees people like yourself juggling all that stuff?
Yeah.
How have you managed that side?
I think giving yourself compassion is a very important thing. And being really open and honest and clear with your family, with the people that are closest to you, and also having boundaries in place. When you can't, you can't. Do you know what? I haven't got that bit right. Like, really haven't got that bit right.
How?
The size of my team is tiny.
How big is it?
There's four of us.
That'll be good for the trailer. How big is it, Nanny?
Well,
So there's four.
There's four of us, and we're running arena size events. How exactly? I don't know.
How are you like? And why are you only 4 people?
So far we've used a lot of freelance external suppliers.
So this is, to be clear, this is like 4 in-house full-timers.
Yeah, so I've got, there's me, there's Wallace, who's my ex-partner. We're partners in business together. He looks after a lot of the tech side of stuff and like the graphic side of stuff from the very beginning. We've got Danielle, who's my COO. She does a lot of like the integration stuff, the finance stuff. And then we've got Anna, who's she's my PA, but also all of my client liaison and supplier liaison. The reason the team is so small is because because we're ready for that next level of growth now. So we have an organisational chart in place where we know where our next hires are. So we used external sales team, for example. Yeah. We use external AV because some of what we do is seasonal as well. Like think about the event. I don't need an events team in-house all the time. Right. So it's been building a core team that really understand the mechanics of the business. And we're at that point where, we're going to be taking on apprentices, we're going to be supporting young people within the business, and then we'll have a seasonal team as well that we draft in. So what has got us where we are isn't going to get us where we're going. So we're a small team now, but we are not going to be in about 5 weeks' time. There's a lot of work going on in the background to have all those things in place.
So you say now you feel like you've not got it right all the time?
No.
Do you feel you're getting it more right now?
Nope. No, and the reason why I say that is because we're 4 weeks out from the biggest event I've ever tried to undertake, and that has been an absolute roller coaster. So if, people looking at me for work-life balance advice right now, I am not your girl.
Another episode, do something else.
I'm not your girl.
Tell us about that then. What's the reality? And when you say roller coaster, what has been a roller coaster? What's happening?
When things are difficult, people really show you who they are. They really show you who they are. And that's whether it's a support or when you're a tiny organisation with lots of big deliverables, it's very hard to know who can you pick the phone up to. So it suddenly becomes, and because I've got to be really strong for my team, so I can't lean on my team and I can't lean to, because of my community, a lot of people are reliant on me for delivery. They're reliant on me for execution. They're reliant on me for all of the things.
Where do you lean?
So I've got some incredible business mentors. Mm-hmm. My sister.
Right. You've got a great relationship, haven't you?
Yeah. She's my best friend.
Yeah.
There are people that, work within the business that are external suppliers, like Jojo Smith from Creative SaaS and the Big Wish Works. Mm-hmm. She's an incredible source of support. One of my best friends in the world, Jackson Feely. Mm-hmm. I've got a few friends that I've been friends with from school who don't understand what I'm doing.
Great.
But that's brilliant because I don't have to talk about work with them,
yeah.
and they don't want to talk about work with me because it's too much.
I think that's such an important thing to have.
Yeah. And those friends, Jackson, Jojo, Gemma particularly, will sit in the mud with me, and sometimes they don't have the answers, and I don't really need people to have answers. I just need them to sit in the mud with me for a second whilst I breathe. So the days are long. Like we're kind of 6 months in to preparing for this particular event, and at the minute I'm hauling 13, 14, 15, 16, 17-hour days. And to the point where people will be ringing me or Gemma, are you okay? And the answer is absolutely yes, because I know where it is that we're going. So there's no deviating from it until we get there. And there's not a world in which it doesn't happen. There's not a universe where it doesn't happen. And I have that level of certainty. So I know it's only for now, this bit. Yeah. And on the other side of it, I will never work. Like, that's a declaration. We've got this now on camera. I will never put myself under this kind of pressure again. But all paths have led here. All paths have led to this blueprint, this arena blueprint, that we then get to go out to the world, investors. We can go for an SEIS raise because I've got proof. Because everything so far has looked nice, but doesn't look like a big box type of event where investors actually take, oh, she is serious. She has got outcomes. She has got serious sponsors. There's a lot of proof that you've got to give when you're gaining momentum like that. And all paths have led here to this. So I already know that this is almost like the worst it's going to be because it can never be like this again. I'm never going to run another event with 4 people. It just won't happen. Either it doesn't happen or that everything that I know is going to happen is built on the other side of it and off we go.
Sometimes I think it's a case of you learn where the edge is and you learn...
I know where the edge is.
But you learn it from the experience of testing it, right?
Yeah.
And that's what I'm hearing, like, that's been your journey.
Yeah.
And so that's where you can get that certainty of we know we're going to do this and we know it will never be like this again because we're learning from the experience. And I think that's a really important thing to share with people listening is, I guess the difference between you and a lot of people, not everybody, but some people that listen, is they have the same dreams, desires, goals, ideas, but they are so scared to just give it a go and throw themselves in. And one of the things that I think is common between people who do the batshittery, crazy stuff that you do is they just are comfortable getting really uncomfortable and saying, I don't have it all figured out, but I know the easiest way to learn is just give it everything.
Matt, I've lost everything before. I've slept on park benches. I've lost everything before. And I know that in the situation I'm at now, I still won't be sleeping on park benches ever again. That'll never happen. There's not, well, I can't say it'll never happen, but I have sat with myself for long enough to know where it is that I'm going and to understand that, you know, if the wheels feel like they're coming off, they don't have to come all the way off.
Right.
I don't have to hold myself that tight or in shame or all of that sort of stuff. So it's not that I've got nothing to lose. The stakes are really high, but I also know what I've survived. I also know what I'm capable of. I also know what I've come through. And I think that when people go, you're really brave, I don't really think it is that I'm brave. I just know what it's like to lose everything and to have nothing to lose and think, well, you know what? Was it shit? Yeah. Am I here? Yeah.
This episode is sponsored by Dr. Tania King-Mohammad. She is the high ticket woman, the #1 best-selling author of the high ticket method, and one of the most sought after high ticket experts in the game. Basically, if you are an entrepreneur who is serious about scaling their business, you need to grab a copy of her book right now. Literally, I have read it and it is a game changer. It will blow your flipping mind. Tania is the mentor that the entrepreneurs call once they are finished playing small and are ready to start charging their worth. Working with Tania is all about creating consistent high ticket sales and doing it in a way where you can create a freedom level income without the constant hustle and grind like a lot of the other mentors bang on about. If you're listening to this show, you already know you're somebody that's meant for more and is willing to go and work for it. So basically, you need to get into Tania's world. Go and grab a copy of her book right now on Amazon and make sure you give her a cheeky little follow on Instagram. She is at Freedom with Tania and she's consistently giving strategies, tips and advice over there for free so you can start charging your worth and actually starting to believe in it.
You have evidence that you're a fucking survivor.
I'll give myself proof.
You give yourself a lot of evidence. But it's that sees us through, right? And you only get evidence through doing the thing. Yeah. And that's what I think is a really key thing for anyone listening that's feeling they're just not moving forward in the way they want to, is you can't wait to feel certain. Like certainty comes as a result of evidence.
Yeah.
Evidence comes from action, right?
Right. So the certainty comes from there's people say it to me and I hate it. It does my head in. Oh, Dani, you'll always pull it off. If there's anyone who can do it, it's you. And I'm like, not today. Not today.
Why do you hate that?
Because it puts me under a lot of pressure. It doesn't give me an out at all. Yeah, you'll always pull it off. But you know what I do? And I have. And if I have a seed of doubt in my mind that, oh, is this going to be the time that doesn't? I thought that every time. I thought that at every single level. From the 50-person event where I couldn't give away tickets, it was the same bloody feeling. The stakes are higher, yes, but it was the same feeling. I'm going to let everyone down. Or, the same when we went to Man United, the same when we went into the big room in Bolton. So if I know that this feeling is very normal,
Yeah, it's just part of the process.
then the job now is to go, okay, what do we do to alleviate that? What needs to happen?
Yeah.
And what needs to happen is to, instead of hustling to the finish line of every big event, we create a situation where we're on the front foot. How do we do that? By actually putting the right structures in place and not putting the tracks down as we go. So momentum has brought us this far, and then structure will take us the rest of the way.
So if you was to look at event you're doing now versus first event, and then let's say somebody's listening who's about to do their first event and how they can maybe avoid a lot of the pain perhaps and some of the roller coaster. One of the things I'm hearing is structure.
Yes.
Any other kind of like quick fire tips we can give somebody based on what you know today about events?
Buying trends, ticket buying trends have changed rapidly in the past 2 years, and you sell a lot of the tickets in the last couple of weeks. So people are being really discerning about how they spend their money. People are being really discerning about how they spend their time. And people also are making a lot of last minute decisions based on their own circumstances and whether they can see other people attending the thing.
Right.
So what we tend to do, our ticket trend is we sell the majority in the room. And that's like for like. So if we think Man U, we were 350, sold out at 350. We knew we had a replicable model. Bolton, we had 600, then 800, then 800. So we know, guess how many tickets we've sold, by the way? 900 to this next event. So, and we did the majority of them
in the room.
Then, right? So then it's engaging initiatives to create that momentum wave for the next one. So we've got the Festoon 500 initiative. We've got a room big enough where we can engage community partners now and help people access the event who would normally have barriers to entry. And so our numbers will come from there as well. But we're in the last 4 weeks. So what we'll see is this. So I'm really, really good friends with Frankie James, who runs Ideas Fest. And the buy-in, she shares it very openly on LinkedIn. You'll see the buy-in trend for tickets, the spike in the direct aftermath, little spikes as they do ticket pushes, and then the last 4 weeks, it goes like this. When an event producer understands that, then it becomes less of a panic. I don't know.
I can feel Helen over my ear going, "Oh, thankful."
It's like true.
Because we've had a really similar curve. And we're at the point about 8 weeks away from ours.
Yeah.
And we're starting to see more regular tickets come in.
Yeah.
But it's still not like a huge spike.
No, and it'll be the last 2 or 3 weeks.
Right, okay.
And so what we have to do as event organisers is hold tight, trust that. What's happening with your peers? What are they doing? How are they driving the tickets? I'm very, very lucky that I've got a great community of fantastic event producers. Andrew and Pete from Atomicon, for example. Frankie, Emma Sale from Killing Kittens, yourself. Understanding the events landscape and being on the inside of the events landscape is great. So if there's any grassroots events organisers, hold tight, don't rest on your laurels. Those smaller events are going to take you getting on the phone. They're going to take your voice, they're going to take direct outreach. Once that starts to establish, it's going to take you getting in rooms and telling people about what it is that you do. Me coming here telling you about this. I was at a Gadio business networking event last night. Those people wouldn't have come across me on the internet. We don't have sponsored ads in the first instance, so they're not going to organically. I've got to go out there and be that person of influence within the city now.
And you mentioned there the Big Festoon 500.
Mm-hmm.
You want to just tell people what that is?
Yes. It's one of my most proud initiatives so far, because so far we've had a cap in the room. So we've only been able to sell so many tickets. So much so that the last Big Festoon I couldn't sell tickets to a year in advance because we'd already sold out, which is actually shooting myself in the foot, because I can't really talk consistently about, well, I have nothing to sell.
Right.
When can you come to it? In 2 years' time.
Yeah.
So I really shot myself in the foot with that, which was why we moved into Arena anyway, because the bowl holds about 700 people and then there's 23,000 seats.
Oh.
So just a casual 23,000 seats.
Yeah.
But with that 23,000 seats, we can create an experience. And so the Festoon 500 is a way to engage the community wider than just businesses that can afford £400-500 for a ticket. Grassroots organisations, CICs. The job of the Big Festoon has always been for new businesses, old businesses, small businesses, big businesses to link arms. Like, the reason it's called the Festoon is bees, when they're building something new, link arms and show the other bees where to build. So it's by design, but the room has never been big enough for me to be able to make it so. So what we've been doing is we've been engaging with the Greater Manchester community and also the national CIC and small organisation community. So we've teamed up with the Rio Ferdinand Foundation, the Big Wish Works, Curious Entrepreneurs, Lancashire Women, Hope Prevails, lots of different organisations. And Manchester have really got behind this. So we're encouraging businesses that can to buy a pass for £1,000. And for that £1,000, they'll get a gold ticket to the Big Festoon. They can also invite 3 of their team to give them access to that community. We can start networking together. But we also, with that, sponsor 2 underrepresented founders into the room as well, so that we can start to level the playing field. So if finances are a barrier to entry, we've got a way to put great learning in front of great talent, really, really great upcoming talent. And met some of them, even last night, with brilliant minds, and they just need the right connections, because that's all I ever needed.
Yeah.
I needed a room that didn't have a gatekeeper. And so what we do is we get to throw the door open on that with the Festoon 500. So we're inviting 500 businesses to grab one of those passes and to not just put the money where their mouth is. There's an incredible network in and of itself. We meet up quarterly afterwards in our Beyond the Arena events, but we get to give back to our founder community and really start to create that wider movement.
So important. All right, let's take the other side of this. If there's somebody watching you and they've sort of been aware of the Big Festoon, I imagine it's fair to say there'll be a perception of what the Big Festoon is.
Yeah.
I know for you, inclusivity is really important, and underrepresented, marginalised communities, putting them on the map, giving them opportunities. If there's people watching that just think, you're the woke event, it's box ticking, that's not for me.
Yeah.
What do you say to them to help them understand why the Big Festoon is so important, and importantly, what it really is?
Yeah, it's really interesting because Dan Priestley's somebody who I know, and he's been and spoken at the event and jokes that it's the most woke event he's ever been to, and we laugh together about it. But it's a real thing to say if you think about it, because woke gets really bandied around,
right?
And woke is just kind. That's all it is. It's just kind. It's thinking.
And it stems from being awake,
yeah,
right, and aware.
And awake and aware to the fact that whether we like it or not, there are barriers to entry in a lot of business spaces for funding, from a gender perspective, from a colour perspective, from a culture perspective. And so what happens to those minds? Like, I came from the council estates, I came from addiction, I came from homelessness. Because I could see this thing in the future, whatever this thing was, made a point of going to seek out opportunities to be in the room. Not everyone's daft like that, like me. But what if we were able to make that more widely accessible to people who are neurodivergent, who can't sit down for an hour and a half seminar while somebody talks and sells at them?
Because I think what happens is we all just see the world how we see it. And I think what I love about you is it's about just telling everybody to just pause and think not everybody sees it like you. So there's things like, whether it be neurodiversity, whether it be OCD, like whatever those things are, that if you haven't lived that experience, if you haven't experienced it for yourself, you're just not aware how those things might affect that person, right? And ultimately, a lot of what I see what you're doing is you're just making people aware and also making adjustments to how you do things to mean that whatever your thing is, whether it's you're neurodivergent or whatever, you can now feel safe in the space. You can now feel, like you say, if like I always feel in events where you're like hemmed in and you've all got to sit there, I get fidgety and I'm like, I just need somewhere to go.
Going.
Yeah, I'm really simple. And it's like in a lot of events, I feel like I just have to shut up and stay there. I don't want to be like the problem person. Whereas at your event, I know I can just walk off, do what I want, stand on my head.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Encouraged, in fact.
Right.
But and again, that isn't for everyone. So I'm never going to please everybody.
No, and nobody is, right?
Right. And what I'm not trying to do is that. I'm not trying to please everybody.
Yeah.
What I'm trying to do is welcome as many different types of people into the room. And under the understanding that that's not even the most interesting thing about them. Their talent and their skill and their kindness and their willingness to do the work and take action is the most interesting thing I find about anybody. Like their unique identifying markers, or whatever their lived experience is, it is their lived experience. It's their life. It's their story. It's their humanity. But that's not the most important or interesting thing about you, because spaces that have got gatekeeping or that are intrinsically or traditionally inaccessible, when somebody does come into that space that does have those lived experiences, that does become the most curious thing or the most unsafe thing about themselves. And that's what the big festoon breaks down, is that we absolutely see and understand that intersectionality of everybody and try and accommodate as much as we can with joy right at its centre and kindness and learning and strategic stuff and commercial stuff, like we've talked about all of it, but we can accommodate and build around it and that still not be. That's just our reason for existence, is to do that. But our real reason for existence is to create an economy whereby people are doing good business, they are creating great money for themselves and doing good things with that money. The travesty of what's happening right now is we are seeing what happens when bad people have lots of money. So why are we not doing as much as we can to get money into the hands of great people, good people who want to do good things in the world? And that's the reason why the big festoon exists. I'll stand on stage and say, money is not a dirty word, success is not a dirty word, I want it for all. I want you to be filthy rich. I want you to earn as much money as possible, to have the best lives possible. And then when you've filled your cup up as much as it can be filled up, then you get to pass that on. Like, why is that not a headline somewhere? Why is that not what we're pushing? Why are we bothered about what somebody's wearing somewhere? Why are we bothered about, who's just shagged who? Why are we not having more conversations like that? You can see this has been something I've been thinking about for a while.
A little bit.
And so when it comes to these long hours, I can't see a world where I'm not fighting for that.
Do you think inclusion, diversity is still massively misunderstood by the majority?
Yeah, and two things are happening. One is the people are paying an apathy tax because they're scared.
Right.
I'm frightened to get it wrong.
So
and
talk more about what that means.
That's like cancel culture and call out culture and all of this sort of stuff, where you'll have maybe people who have a lived experience and there becomes an expectation and almost a lack of agency around everybody needs to accommodate for me without kind of articulating the request in the first place. You should just know about this. And like, what if that person doesn't know about it? I certainly didn't. I remember I ran the big festoon online during lockdown and I thought I was meticulous about the lineup. I had trans people on the lineup, black people on the lineup, South Asian people on the lineup, Jewish people on the lineup, men, women, everybody in between. And I was really proud. I'd done so much work. And it was the week that George Floyd got murdered. And I didn't know whether to still go ahead because we were raising money for domestic abuse charities. And of course, there was a righteous anger within the black community that meant that if they didn't, and they didn't have to, like, study the lineup, if they'd have only come across a couple of posts, it might look like I haven't said enough or done enough for the black community during that week. And so came to me with a righteous anger.
Right.
That, you've not done enough. And they asked, this one particular person asked me, could you have done more? And the answer is yes. Yes, I could have done more. Did I do as much as I knew how to at the time? Yes. Could I have done more? Yes. And so I went live, and I was devastated, but sat uncomfortably with everybody and apologised. And people were like, why are you apologising? Your lineup was incredible, but I could have done more. And that's not to say that for people that can do more, you've got to go on the internet and cry about it. That was a huge learn for me, to understand what righteous anger is. And then when somebody from a marginalised or oppressed community comes to you with something, they're telling you because they want to feel included. They're not maybe necessarily telling you because they're angry at you and you're the problem now. But because there has been a lot of that in the past, there is a reticence and a fear to step towards it, because if I get it wrong, someone's going to be mad at me.
Right.
And so if we create communities whereby conversations can take place, questions can be asked, or if education is required, it is paid for accordingly, then we can start to move forward. So for people so there's an apathy tax that's being paid by people not stepping towards the work through fear and not having the right space to go and ask questions, or, not even knowing where to go. And then on the other side of things are the people that don't want to.
Right.
They just don't want to. And fuck them.
Why do you think they don't want to?
Because of probably their inherent homophobia or misogyny or racism or whatever it is, because they don't have a problem because they are okay. There's a difference between understanding and knowing and still being ignorant in some ways to there being a problem with accessibility to things, and refusal.
Right.
Refusal is a declaration of intent. And so if somebody knows there's a problem and does nothing about it, then for me, that's a declaration of intent. Right. You are telling me who you are.
Yeah.
When somebody is scared, that is different. That person needs support.
Yeah.
That person needs to understand that there are places where they can go and find out more about it. Hell, get in my DMs. I'll point you in the right direction.
Yeah, and it's like you say, it's about conversations and being able to ask questions without fear. And that's one thing I think you do brilliantly. I also want to shout out Lindsay McLowan.
Yes.
Like, again, I recently had a conversation with her, and at no point did I feel silly asking silly questions, if that makes sense. Like, I just knew you can get it wrong, you can make mistakes, and that's okay.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people think it wouldn't be like that if they are a bit naive and they don't know what the right thing to do or say or what they should be doing.
That hasn't been paralysis then.
Right. And then that's not useful for anybody, right?
No. For them as well, because if the people that want to know and the people that are interested and curious and want to explore it will find that if they create a safe space, all of a sudden the people who then feel safe will come and buy and will come and spend. Like, it's an economical thing as well. I was saying about putting money in the hands of good people. It's also a wise thing to do from a business perspective. It shouldn't be the driver, but it has a direct impact on how successful things become. People are very, very discerning about where they put their money. People really underestimate my community in that, oh no, it's people that can't afford. Oh, they can. They're choosing where they're putting their money. They are choosing where they are putting their money. And when you're trying to sell something that feels nefarious and unsafe, well, guess what? That's not going to go. That's not where the money's going to be spent. There are deals done in my room to the tune of multiple six figures. There are collaborations that generate millions. And to be underestimated or to underestimate that is... it's like not being in Pretty Woman. It's like a big mistake.
Yeah.
Huge.
So... if somebody's hearing that, so they're hearing you openly say there's more money to be made by being more inclusive and diverse, and they're hearing like what you said there about the George Floyd thing where I don't know if you'd say were under attack, but people were calling out you'd made some mistakes with the lineup.
It's more like the message as opposed to the lineup.
Right,
if you look at the lineup, you'd have gone, she's done a really great job there. I was really proud of it. But it was the messaging around it. What was I saying? Was I shouting loud enough about the Black Lives Matter movement? Suffice to say, and again, not like virtue signalling, but that person, it's not their job to go and research everything I'm doing that week. They're not seeing me at protests with my children. They're not seeing me, having the conversations in the background or, engaging with the Black community and saying, is there anything that we can do to support or sit in the mud and go, this is fucking shit and you're loved and like, like that person, those people, that's not, I and when I say those people, I mean the people that got in touch with me at the time. It wasn't their job to go and research me before they came to me. I obviously wasn't being loud enough about what I was doing.
But then what about the people that will say, why isn't it just whoever's the best is on the stage and it's just the best person on the lineup? What's your response to those people? Because I think it's probably a common thing that people that are maybe not educating themselves having these conversations just from the outside looking in, they might hear you say that and go, but why does it matter the background, the colour of the skin, whatever? Why is it not just who's the best speaker?
I think you'll find that the people that are from marginalised and oppressed communities tend to be the better speakers because they've had to work harder. They've had to fight for the space that they've got. It's only tokenism, I guess, or if you're recruiting against a standard, and the pool is small, it's your fault that your pool is small. You've not made your pool safe enough for the talent to show itself and for the talent to move toward you. So yes, absolutely, it should be based on talent, but you should be going to find that talent and not expecting the talent to come and find you. Just like it wasn't the people that came to me to have those conversations with me in the aftermath of the first big festoon. It wasn't their job to come and research me. It was my job to make myself approachable and make myself safe.
I completely agree. No, I love it because I reflect, and I think there was a time. So I think we started this podcast maybe 7 years ago, something like that. This will be our 6th live event. And there was a time, I'll be really honest, where when I was trying to get guests for this show and so on, it was predominantly white men. And I would try and research more female and other people from other backgrounds. And I'd be like, I just don't know where they are. I don't know where they exist. And or I even had it where I found it actually... there was a period of time where there was quite a few females that they last minute they didn't come or they just weren't available or whatever. And I was like, I'm actually trying to get a more diverse lineup, if you want to call it that, or podcast guests. And it just, I was struggling, but it was such a small pool I was looking in. And I think that, and I share that openly because you can sometimes think you're trying.
Yeah.
And it's only through, like, I've been around your communities and widened the net, and suddenly there's all this, like, rich tapestry of people. But I think it's very easy, and I want to be really honest about that. It's very easy to be in your small world and believe that you're doing your best.
Yeah, everyone can see me. Of course everyone can see me. Look how many people come to my events. I'm running arenas now, and I walk in rooms and no one knows. How dare they? Like,
very dare.
No one knows who I am. And if you start to believe your own hype, I used to work at Pontins, right? And
I've had many a gig at Pontins. We may have even crossed paths.
I bet you know we will have done. So I was at Pontins Southport.
I remember it.
And so people would come on holiday for a week or 2 weeks. And you would be, as a blue coat, you would be the be-all and end-all. You were the life of the party. You were the stars of the show. Even when people like you came to perform,
you were still the one.
They were the ones, we were the ones that the kids wanted the photos with, and you'd feel really special for that week or those couple of weeks, that weekend even, and you would never see those people again. And they would want your autograph. When you realise that. That is what it is, and that when people are about their lives, they don't see you, and not unless they're in front of your face, you're not as important as you think you are. When you understand that, then you can move in different spaces. I think people get, everybody knows who I am, like in the online space I'm famous. Well, I can walk in any bunch of rooms, maybe somebody will know me, but my job is to assume nobody does and go and engage as much as possibly can. When you live in your bubble, you will stay in your bubble, and also what you'll be is in a whirlpool that will eat itself up after a while. So,
it's echo chambers, isn't it? I don't know if you agree, but I just think echo chambers are one of the most dangerous things.
And boring.
And really, and that's what I think about. I think now my life is genuinely so much more enriched by just having such a more diverse pool of friends and clients and mentors, and like, irrespective of the money or the business, just my life is better.
And do you know what's funny? You and I met by accident at a TV premiere that you were having in Leeds, and I was invited along by Jackson Feely. Jackson Feely off the telly.
Off the telly, yeah.
He was like, "Oh, I'm at my friend's premiere." Like, he said, "It's all right if you come along." And we kind of met at that point, and I just knew you as Matt off the telly, like Jack's off the telly, my mate's off the telly. But seeing you move the way that you've moved over the last couple of years that I've known you, even like your growth game within that time is strong, but I think that's because you've lifted the lid off actually the vastness of the opportunity that is knowing more people and extending your network. And business's survival is absolutely intrinsically linked to how well you nurture your network, not just your current, but consistently adding to it all the time.
Right.
And I feel like right now the Avengers are assembling. Like incredible people that like we know and are kind of moving towards each other and, you know, having these great conversations, but then that's going on to trigger another conversation, another collaboration. And I felt like now, even though I'm quite cynical about the world, I'm really excited about the business space now more than I ever have been.
This is interesting because you say that at a time where a lot of people are talking about there's a trust recession. It's harder to sell than ever. What's your response? My response is
there's only a trust recession if you're not being transparent yourself. Like there's a trust recession. I don't feel like the change in people's economic spend has anything to do with how much somebody trusts me.
Right.
Because anybody who spends any time in any kind of proximity knows that the Dani that you're getting right now is the Dani that 2 weeks ago when we were in an event, you're getting the same Dani. And the Dani that people see on the internet is exactly the same Dani. Like, there's no difference.
Right.
And so I don't feel like there's a trust recession. Maybe out in and amongst the industry, perhaps, people are becoming wise to guru-centric selling.
Bullshit.
Thank you. I'm not really swearing. I don't know why I was.
Yeah, you've been very mellow.
I was
you all right?
Yeah, I don't have okay.
Temperature?
I'm just tired. But I think just people are becoming wise to guru-centric teaching.
Yeah.
And when you spend, 2, 3, 4, 5 years in a particular industry where you're seeing certain cycles of behaviour, people will start to move away from purchasing the things that they may have purchased in the past. Or, people have burned through enough of different programmes to be able to be saying to other people, I probably wouldn't engage with that.
Right, yeah.
Because people talk. And so, is there a trust recession? No, I think there is an honesty recession. And I think there's an honesty revolution that needs to happen and a connection revolution that needs to happen. It's why people are moving more towards live events and live events that make them feel good and not just feel sold to. Again, that paradigm shift in connection is the thing that people are asking for now more than ever. So we can bandy words like trust recession around, or we can step towards how are we generating connection? What are we doing to be honest? And honesty isn't just about being vulnerable and crying on the internet. It's just be honest. Be honest about your products. Be honest about your services. Be honest about your outcomes. Be honest about, stop conflating things if they don't need conflating. Tell the fucking truth. And if you're great at what you do, you will not suffer from a trust recession.
If anything, I think whatever this thing is, we won't call it trust recession, but whatever the time is we're living through, my thoughts are this is the time now where the really good people start to be more trusted than ever, because I do think with things like artificial intelligence, I think it is harder to know what to trust and what's real, what's not real, and all that stuff. I think that's a very real thing to acknowledge. But I think for the people who genuinely care the most, that are willing to go above and beyond, that are willing to adapt to what people are saying they need right now and listen to what they need.
Instead of trying to rinse and repeat everything they've always done.
Which a lot of people do, and I think they're going to get left behind. I think that is if they don't evolve and just think, oh, well, I'm amazing, I've been amazing for years. If they're not listening to what people actually need right now, then they probably are going to struggle. But for the real deal that are like, I care, I want to be the best I can be.
I'm solving a problem.
Right.
I'm solving a problem.
It's all businesses, right?
Yeah. And I think that if you're no longer solving a problem, then you're on a really sticky wicket. That's going to be a difficult situation. Well, or that you need to listen a little bit harder and think about the problem that, or, instead of you thinking you're solving a problem, listen.
Yes.
Listen, what's going on? What do people need? Are you providing that service? For me, I am absolutely my core belief is that people need to be brought together now more than ever and be encouraged to do business with each other, as long as you are doing it in honesty and integrity and all of those words that we like to, but in truth.
Yeah.
And so, you know, we talk about having like a no knobheads policy, you know, at the big festoon. But what I'm really saying by that is be kind, be honest, do good business, don't bullshit. Come on now, like now is the time that we need to be grown-ups together. Now's the time, and this is the same for this whole like wokeness or fear or whatever it is. Like, own your shit, have agency, advocate for yourself. If somebody can't advocate for themselves, like ask, you know, do they need a lift? Like be a good ally, and let's make some fucking money. Let's go, like.
Hey, fucking man.
Yes.
This episode is sponsored by Laura Robson and Back Pocket Office. Now, let me tell you about this one. Laura is somebody you need in your life. I have got her in my life, and all I can say about her is I don't know how I'd live without her. And it's true. If you're anything like me, you will hate tech. You'll be great at launching and creating the marketing material and delivering on the actual product that you're selling. But when it comes to the back end, making sure it's all automated and it all works, I just can't be bothered. And if you're the same, Laura is the solution. Laura is a systems strategist, and she's also a certified launch and funnel specialist. And if you are a service provider, if you're a coach, consultant, any kind of online business that provides some kind of online service, then Laura is there to help sort out all your funnels and systems for you. With over 14 years experience, she's somebody who's going to get you solutions quick. She's easy to speak to, very approachable, and just really friendly and nice, basically. So if you are ready to get your systems and your funnels all sorted for you and work with one of the best in the business, go check out backpocketoffice.co.uk and connect with Laura on socials. The links are literally right below this episode in the show notes. Go click it, and I mean this. Go and do it now. You will not regret it.
All right, couple of things before we wrap up. If you're happy to talk about it, ADHD.
Okay.
So I literally I resonate with traits. I had shout out to Nat McKenzie, who's a cognitive strategist, and she made me do a cognitive test. It wasn't the best.
When you say it wasn't the best, what do you mean?
I mean that if I continue to live like I'm living, I'm potentially putting myself at risk to cognitive decline. So that was predominantly like lack of sleep, constantly switching on. You might resonate with some of this.
100%.
You know, brain not turning off and things like that. So a lot of that came up. But Natalie also said I tick just about every box for ADHD. Now, I've never gone and got an official diagnosis or anything like that. I'm not actually sure whether I want/need to. I'm not sure. But I know this has been something for you too.
Yeah, it has. And
if you're happy to share, what has the last few months looked like for you and your relationship with the neurospiciness?
It's been heartbreaking. It's been revelatory. It's been one of the best things that I've allowed myself to sit with. And that's not me saying, so by the way, I had a late diagnosis of ADHD, both inattentive and hyperactive.
And this was at the end of last year, right?
Yeah, towards the end of last year. And a huge shout out to ADHD 360, who've been like absolutely solid for me through this process. I've always been at odds with myself. And it was only when I sat really through sort of the assessment process, which, by the way, for somebody who really struggles with executive function and form filling out and all of this sort of stuff, it's a hard process to go through.
Right, okay.
It feels prohibitive from the outset. So me understanding this about myself, when I was 5 years old, I had OCD. I compulsively washed my hands. And that came from my mum and dad had a cleaning company. And in the warehouse, there were lots and lots of chemicals. So mum and dad were very, very, very clear. Don't touch anything in here. Everything's poisonous.
Wow.
So I don't want to touch anything in there because everything's poisonous.
Right.
That makes me feel some kind of way, right? I'm taking that somewhere. At the very same time, where we lived, the school which we went to, and this is mid-80s, there'd been an outbreak of dysentery in the Northwest. And you think like dysentery, that's where really underprivileged countries experience, where there's poor sanitation. And it came from, people not washing their hands correctly. So I remember being sat on, and I'm 5 years old, not being allowed to touch anything here because it's poisonous. And my teacher sitting in front of us all, I remember Brenda Pearson, she sat and she went, who here has got germs on their hands? And she put her hand up in the air and I looked at her like this. You couldn't possibly. And she went on to explain that we all have germs on our hands, and so that we've got to wash our hands in this certain way. So I'm like, I can't touch anything and I've got germs on my hands, and I can't touch anything and I've got germs on my hands. So I'm like, bless my little cotton socks, washing my hands. I wouldn't open, like, I don't know how this stops my hands having germs on, but like, I was 5, so I didn't understand the science. So I'm opening like door handles like this. I would only eat with a knife and fork. I remember being sat at my grandma's house, and my grandma was like this incredible, like proper battle axe, like proper northern battle axe. We were having fish and chips, and I remember crying because she wouldn't let me go and get a knife and fork to eat my fish and chips with. No, you eat them with your hands, that's what we do. And she was trying to teach me a lesson, because, you know, it's like a proper, a real northern lesson. But I didn't realise at the time, of course, I was 5, that the way that my brain takes in information and the way that I think about things is very different than somebody else. And so things like, I would be in lesson and race to the end of the thing because I was bored, because I wanted to look out of the window at the Pennine Mountains and wonder why there was snow on the Pennine Mountains. I just happened to get all the things right because I didn't want to get things wrong, because I was frightened of getting in trouble. You see what my grandma did. So like, so I'm rushing to get through my schoolwork. School think I'm a super high performer. I don't like school. I don't want to write about learning. I got as far as 16, did all my GCSEs, God knows how. Passed all my GCSEs, A's and A stars, apart from maths because I'm dyscalculate, it turns out, and I didn't realise, which again runs alongside from a neurotype perspective, that my command of language was always incredible. You know, I was creative, I'd think about things differently. Science was interesting to me. Maths I could not do. Physics and maths I bombed. A's and A stars and everything else. When I think about how rejection sensitivity dysphoria really affected me, when I think about how I felt inherently broken my entire life and I didn't know why. I just thought I was broken, and I thought nobody liked me, and I just wanted to do good things in the world. And you think about what I'm creating now is actually, you asked me right at the beginning of the podcast, right, where does this come from? Because I couldn't bear the idea of people not liking me as a person. Now I don't give a fuck, it's very different. But like, because I know I'm intrinsically good and kind, I've sat with the mirror long enough to go, oh, they're not really thinking that. I'm making that up, I'm catastrophizing, because that's the way that my brain works. My executive function is something that I've always struggled with. I thought I was just stupid. Why can't I fill out this form? Why can't I just ring school to tell them that the kids are unwell? Why can't I make this dentist appointment for myself? Why can't I advocate for myself? Why have I lost my house? Why? I thought I was just stupid. And still creating all these things that you see now. Creating events from nothing. Creating communities from nothing. Being articulate. And I remember sitting with the assessor at the time, and she looked at me and she went, Dani, I need you to talk, because I'm crying. I just think I'm stupid. And I don't want anyone to find out. And she went, but you're remarkable. And I went, what do you mean? I can't fill out a form. I don't like making a phone call because I'm frightened of getting in trouble. I always feel like I'm in trouble. I feel like I'm stupid. She went, you are remarkable. Look. Look at how incredible your kids are. Look how loved they are. And yes, all right, you're strapped on time. Yes, all right, you're doing big things. But look at what you're creating. You are remarkable. And I was like, well, fuck. I didn't realise. And then she explained to me something that really made sense. And this is how, and I can only speak to ADHD here. Human beings only move when they're going to die, or to prevent themselves from dying, or to reproduce. Right? If we really think about it, joy in doing things just because you like it isn't really enough for the average human being. So 2 things need to be at play in order to do those 2 things as humans. So we're going to move away from death, or avoid death in some way, shape or form, or reproduce. So the things that move us towards that, the hormones that move us towards that, dopamine and cortisol. Serotonin and other things, yes, but dopamine and cortisol. So cortisol moves us away from dying. And for us, we've got to generate enough cortisol in order to make us move. If we don't, and the problem with people who happen to have ADHD is we don't generate naturally too much cortisol. We have to create so much that we put ourselves in life or death. So I would stay in bed right up until the point I was going to be late and then get out of bed. I would leave. This is why, like us deadline dancers, we have to generate so much cortisol within ourselves to make it feel like we're dying in order to do the thing. And we can reflect and go, but I know this stuff. If only I'd have given myself more time, it would have been better. But you couldn't have done because you wouldn't have been able to move, because that's, no matter how much you logic, this is why you can't logic your way out of these things. And if you think about like dopamine, for example, dopamine is produced often like when we eat. We'll find that people who have ADHD will eat or drink or do things that, that generate or, have addictive personalities because our base level of dopamine is so much higher than everybody else's that we've got to really push in order to make that move. Once you start to understand that, you understand what's at play. It becomes much easier for me then to sit within my workaholism and my addictions and all of that sort of stuff that are inherently a part of who I am, because my chemistry isn't quite right. Or it is right, our world isn't set up for it. So all this to say, yes, I have an ADHD diagnosis. What I actually believe is at play is that the world in which we live in is so far removed from what we're really meant to be dealing with and what we experience as people who are getting those diagnoses, that we are symptomatic of a world that is not built properly for us. It's a world that's built on capitalism and patriarchy and all that sort of stuff. It's built to keep us stressed and burnt out and tired, and that might sound political, but because it is. Our social media, our AI, our technological advancements are far quicker than our biological advancements. If you think about how long it takes the brain to evolve, we haven't got a chance. So no wonder that a lot of us are feeling symptomatic of our neurotype. In a tribe, as animals, we would be farmers and nurturers and hunters. And, we would have roles. So what we're experiencing is people particularly who are highly empathic, we may have been nurturers or creators within a tribe or village environment, are all of a sudden burning the fuck out because we cannot. And people who maybe necessarily, not predators, but hunters, for example, people who are, maybe alpha types, maybe aren't struggling in the same way, but they're struggling in their relationships. I think that's what's happening. So when we talk about, ADHD and you've got a diagnosis, I've got a diagnosis, you don't know, I don't think it's that at all. I think our neurotypes are really struggling with the world in which we live in. And that's one of the things that we've got to change. Again, at the Big Festoon, why we create the way that we create is because of that. I really went off on one then, but that's what's happening.
And the solution?
Well, I got medication. I got prescribed Elvans, which is an amphetamine, a stimulant, something that helps increase dopamine and cortisol levels to a point where I'm able to move without having to engage in toxic behaviours to make that happen. But that's only addressing a symptom and not a root cause.
Okay.
And that is a big question, because we're talking about society now and we're not talking. So and this is the trouble, right? We're symptomatically treating the thing, and it's been a revelation. Don't get me wrong, like that medication is revelatory. It just happens to be right for me. It's not right for everybody. Okay. But I can pick up a thought from the thought shelf and put it down, and pick up the next thought and put it down, and then pick that thought up again later on and go, I can pick that up now. I didn't know that was something somebody could do.
Makes me think I need these drugs.
Babe, I got you. No, I don't got you. Get a proper prescription. That was not medical advice. I was not peddling drugs to Matthew.
After.
But that is once we understand that the behaviours that we are thrusting shame upon ourselves for are not shameful. They are symptoms of a world that is not built for us. And the big question is how do we deal or cope with that? I mean, there is the firefighting in the first instance. There is things like medication. It's understanding what dopamine and cortisol production looks like for you. And then maybe exploring something that might offer an alternative if medication isn't a route for you. So is it going the gym, for example? Is it creating healthier patterns? Is it finding food that you find delicious that isn't necessarily food that has been constructed to do that to you, by the way? Processed food, chocolate, refined sugar, all of that sort of stuff. No, it's not. It's political. It's by design. It's all by design. And again, so the deconstruction of that is scarily probably what we're looking at right now.
But to your point, it's about, this is where having conversations, linking arms, coming together, strength in numbers is more important than ever.
And helping each other by this, having this conversation and educating people. And hopefully somebody's listened to this bit of our conversation, Matt, and gone, oh, I get it, I'm not stupid.
Yeah.
Because 40 years of feeling stupid is not okay.
Yeah, because you called it heartbreaking.
Yeah, it was heartbreaking because I didn't realise I wasn't stupid. And so it was nice and really sad. And I was really sad for little Dani because she thought she was stupid. So yeah.
Thank you so much, Dani. I know this has been at times an uncomfortable conversation that we're having, and I can see obviously you're visibly moved by that, and I get it. Like, that's a huge thing.
I'm excited is what I am now, is I'm excited. I find it a travesty that there are so many people out there feeling like I felt, and I know you feel that in some way, shape or form too, and I find it a travesty. And again, the reason why something like the Big Festoon has to exist is because of that.
Okay, we're just going to do some quick fire questions.
Right.
Shake it off.
Let's go.
Okay, what is some of the best piece of advice you've received in your life, and why?
Okay, so I was out with drinks with one of my friends, a lady called Lucy Cohen, who runs Mazuma Money, and it was only a few months ago, and we were talking about team, and we were talking about leadership and things like that, and she shared with me a sentence that changed the absolute game for me. She was like, I ask my team before they submit me anything, is that your best work? And if they hesitate and they don't think it is their best work, I know, right? And they don't think it is their best work, then I'm not going to look at it. And then
feel some ears and eyes burning in the background because I like the sound of this. Is that your best work? Got my videographers like, cough, Matt. Yes.
But you know what? But he is here, and I know like we've worked together a couple of times now, and you've got people that are working with you, and it is their best work. And not just the question that you ask of your team, it's the question that you ask of yourself.
Yeah.
Was that my best work?
Yeah.
Like me was sitting with you, having this conversation today, I've brought all of me to the table. I can go away and go, do you know what? When I did that podcast with Matt, that was my best work. You sat with me and brought all of you to the table. That was your best work. It's something that I'm asking of everybody around me. If they're presenting me with something out, was that your best work? Is that your best work? And if it's not, I don't have time to engage with it because I'm only going to do my best work.
Nice.
So it was that. And the other one was another former mentor of mine called Brad Burton. And it's another leadership statement that he made. And it was, don't tell me you're funny, make me laugh.
Yeah, I love that.
Don't tell me.
Yeah, show me.
Yeah. And that, more than ever, is the information I take from everything.
Okay, flip side is what's some of the worst advice that might have been well-meaning, but as you've gone through life, you've realised it were bollocks.
From Brad Burton again, and I say this with love, and I'm very, very grateful for all of the support that Brad gave me when I was coming through. He said, don't trust a fat motivational speaker. And at the time, I was a size 26, and there's lots of different reasons why I'm not at the minute, but it isn't because I was ashamed of who I was, and it wasn't because I wasn't capable of inspiring people. Like this, the change in my body has only been very, very recent. The movement I've been building has been over 10 years.
Right.
And I understand where that came from. It came from, well, if you're not motivated to look after yourself, then how are people going to be motivated by you?
Old school, like naive thought, I think.
Yeah, and again, just even having that conversation over having ADHD and understanding that, of course you can be a fucking fat motivational speaker. You could be a thin motivational speaker. What you've got to be is you've got to not tell people you're funny, you've got to make them laugh.
Yeah.
So
Got to be motivational.
Yeah, in some way, shape or form. It doesn't have to be in all areas of my
Right.
life. I've told you on this podcast that I'm not getting all of it right. Fucking hell.
Yeah.
Imagine if I was.
Yeah.
Then I'd probably be worth booking again. I can tell you how I got it all right.
We'll do it when you get there. All right, next question, if you're happy to share, is I think quite often when we listen to podcasts like this, we'll put people like you on a pedestal. You know, you're a guest on a podcast, you're doing these big events. I think because of the way this conversation has gone, people now are really, if they didn't know much about you, they'll know you're very much an open book and you share everything.
Yeah.
But I think it's really important that we do share the difficult side to stuff. So if you are happy to share, what is something you're really struggling with at this moment? And importantly, how are you working on solving that and working through it?
So one of the things that I'm struggling with at the moment is having conversations. So putting on an event the size of an arena costs £500,000, which when you come from the council estates of Preston, and you know, when I first started in business, I had 300 quid in my back pocket and not a clue. I'm very grateful to our friend Lisa Johnson for actually creating the blueprint right at the very beginning for what my online business looked like. And I remember my first launch being 16 grand and me being blown away. I'd never seen that much money in one go at all. And we've gone over to turn 7 figures since, but one event costs £500,000 that I've got to generate from somewhere. And that £500,000 is not my back pocket. It's not my wage. It's not my team's wage. That's external to everything. Wow. And the biggest frustration I've got is that we'll go and tell people about this and they'll go, oh, yeah, I'm in for this. And they'll say, you know, we'll put X amount of money on the table for you. And I'll go, brilliant, we'll shake hands on it. And then move toward them again and then they pull away. So coming back to like truth and honesty and understanding and all of that sort of stuff is never resting. I know now to never rest on my laurels on a yes until something is all the way over the line. And we can, and you know, in the manifesting industry, they'll be like, oh, don't cast aspersions on a potential, nah. Like,
I've learned the same lesson just recently.
People are going to be peopling.
Right.
And business is going to be businessing.
Yeah.
And so your job is to have as many irons in as many different fires as possible. And the yes is a win, fantastic.
But don't rely on it.
Don't rely on it. Don't have all your eggs in a basket because it can leave you in a really painful place. And that's something that I've been burning through viscerally. We're coming through the other side of it now and there's lots of things that we've got in play.
Yeah.
But people don't, we're saying about not being friends. It's not about, when it comes to things like that, everyone's trying to survive and look after themselves. So they've got to make their own decisions. But then you can't rely on that then and nobody's coming to save you.
Dani, if people have never heard of you before, they've obviously been on a rock, clearly, or under a rock is the saying, I think.
Under a rock, over a rock, beside the rock.
They've got a rock. Where can they find you? And the big one is, please tell us how we can get to the big festoon. Let us know the dates, all the info.
So the big festoon at the point of this recording, we're 4 weeks out. It's the 11th and 12th, or the 10th, 11th and 12th. We've got about 10 VIP tickets left. 10th, 11th and 12th of March at the AO Arena in Manchester. You can get your tickets by going to thebigfestoon.co.uk. And to keep abreast of all things Dani and all the things that I'm getting up to, you can find me across the socials at the Queen Bee Dani.
Dani Wallace, the final question that I ask all guests. What is your definition of success?
Being able to go to bed at night knowing you've done your best work. Even if it's not your most successful, you've done your best work. You've been kind. You've not deviated from your core values. You can go to bed at night like that, you're doing all right.
Thank you. I feel a bit emotional.
Oh,
are you okay?
Yeah.
I felt like I wanted to pause a little bit.
No, absolutely not, never.
That was so good. So good.